Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So I wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyam Sundar Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal Singhadev, Jagannath Baladev, Go Nitai, Tulsi Maharani, Haridas Thakur Srila Guru Parampara Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj and the assembled devotees. So we are now on Canto 5, which is quite a tough canto later on. But let's see what we've done. And the canto's name, our own canto, is the creative impetus. So let's just have a quick look at what we have covered so far. Brief overview, Canto 1 and 2. The first two cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam are considered to be the Lord's lotus feet and form the prelude to the rest of the scripture by introducing us to its key philosophical concepts and prominent characters. These canto, and they also establish how and why Bhagavatam was spoken, Parikshit Maharaj being cursed, etc. These cantos also establish Bhakti Yoga as the topmost spiritual path, and Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of all incarnations. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That's a very key verse or key line. And we saw even in Canto 4, chapter 29 yesterday, how much Narad Muni emphasizes Bhakti Yoga. In these cantos, there are descriptions of many wonderful prayers by devotees, the Lord's reciprocation with them. And this is the beauty of the Lord. He is not a impersonal personality. He's not a somebody who doesn't care or somebody who just expects, glorification. I am the Lord, you worship me. But he reciprocates according to the devotee's service towards him. And it's a reciprocation of if you give if you give something to the Lord, he'll give 10 times that back in return. So it's a reciprocation, but it's multiplied by 10 times minimum. Birth of Parikshit Maharaj is also described, his activities of chastising Kali, the history of the Bhagavatam, the circumstances in which this scripture made its appearance, process of creation, the Virat Roop, the Chaturshloki. This is like the essence of the Bhagavatam. The definition of the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. So all the Puranas will have, I think it's a minimum of 6, but 10 topics that they will cover. And then cantos 3 and 4. The third and fourth cantos correspond to the Lord's thighs and prominently discussed the topics of the primary and secondary creation through the conversation of Vidur and Maitreya. So the primary creation is when Lord Vishnu breathes out and all the universes come out from within his body. And the secondary creation is when the Lord expands into every single universe and empowers Lord Brahma to conduct the secondary creation. The third canto describes a variegated range of topics that include the following: creation by the Supreme Lord, sub-creation by Brahma and his sons, time, embryology, family life, Sankhya Yoga, that was Kapil Dev, Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. The spiritual world is described, Vaikuntha especially, and material world and hell is also described. A very little description of hell. But we'll see in the fifth canto, there's a lot more description of the concept of hell. In the third canto, there are prominent episodes like the pastimes of Lord Varaha, descriptions of Vaikuntha and Lord Vishnu, the interaction of Kashyap and Aditi, the household life of Kardam Muni and Devahuti, teachings of Lord Kapil. Interesting. Yesterday, how we heard how King Prachinaharisat left home after being advised by Narad Muni and went to Kapil Muni's ashram in Gangasagar and performed austerities and achieved and bhakti and achieved perfection. So the fourth canto is very rich in its content, where Maitreya continues to describe the family lines of Swayambhu Manu, Manu's descendants. Manu had 3 daughters, 2 sons. So the daughters, Devahuti, Akuti, Prashuti, 3 daughters, Uttampad, Priyavrat, the 2 sons. Uttampad we've talked about, Priyavrat we haven't. And that's the next subject matter. There are many admired personalities unveiled in this canto. Lochiva, Suniti, Dhruv, and Dhruv is the son of Uttanpad and mother is Suniti, King Anga, Prithu, Pachetas. There are extraordinary examples of devotional service. We can learn about the unfavorable attitudes in devotional service from the mistakes of the following characters. So sometimes we can get it wrong, and we can learn from those mistakes of others. Daksha, he became very proud, insulted Shiva. Suruchi again became very proud and insulted Dhruv, even though he was a 5-year-old boy. Vena, he was this nasty king. Indra, he became very puffed up and he stole the sacrificial horse of Dhruv. Was it Dhruv? I can't remember now, actually, who it was. Anyway, maybe it was, who was it? Dhruv. Prachina Bharhi Sat, who was very attached to family life. And Narad Muni convinced him to become a little bit more, have a better outlook towards spiritual life. The positive transformation undergone by many of the personalities, mainly due to the intervention of devotees, add to the glory of bhakti. Furthermore, the prayers of pure devotees in this canto disclose the foremost aspiration of the devotees to hear Krishna Katha in the association of devotees. By rejecting heavenly enjoyments and impersonal liberation, which are the results of process of karma and gyan, respectively, such prayers once again establish the superiority of bhakti yoga. So some people feel karma yoga is more important, gyan yoga is more important, but actually the Bhagavatam establishes the supremacy of bhakti yoga. There are examples of kings like Uttampad, Dhruv, Ang, Prithu, Prachini Barhi, and Pachetas, who ruled the citizens with full responsibility while practicing bhakti. So they were doing their duty at the same time bhakti was being performed, and then retired in an exemplary way at the right time for spiritual advancement. And even though they were performing bhakti, they still gave up every duty in order to focus on bhakti. This is pretty powerful. There are glorious examples of ladies like Anasuya, Sati, Suniti, Archi, Vairabhi, who are devoted to their husbands with faith. Their activities teach lessons to disciples in serving their spiritual masters. Wow, so that's up to the fourth canto. Now the fifth canto, a brief overview, just what are we going to find in this fifth canto? Fifth canto corresponds to the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord. Here, Sukadev Goswami continues on the topic of Visarga. Visarga is secondary creation, and describes the dynasty of Priyavrat, who was the second son of Swayambhu Manu, which is the first 15 chapters, the other son of Manu. The latter half of the canto, 16 to 26, discusses Sthanam, the position of the various planetary systems within the structure of the universe for the inhabitation of various living entities. This is quite tough, these chapters. How could a very advanced devotee fall from his position, forgetting his spiritual practice, engaging in material life? So this is one of the most important pastimes. in the Bhagavatam. This is the story of the lives of two greatly advanced devotees, Priyavrat and King Bharat. Sukadev Goswami explains that one who is attached to the nectarian honey of the Lord's lotus feet may sometimes be checked by an impediment. Sometimes we just go off the rails a little bit. But he still never gives up the exalted position he has attained. This is the beauty of bhakti. We can fall away, but the Lord will not let us fall. He will allow us to maintain where we were. And then when we come back, we start from that same place, not from again, all over again. The dynasty of Priyavrat. Priyavrat exemplifies the spirit of sacrificing one's personal desire to be obedient to the orders of superiors. Although he wanted to be in the renounced order, upon Lord Brahma's request, he took charge of the father's kingdom. So he wanted to actually renounce Priyavrat. But Lord Brahma came to him, his great grandfather, said, "No, you can't resign. You have to, you're the only one qualified to run the kingdom." He took charge of the father's kingdom without any grudges. He ruled in an exceptional way, dividing Bhumandal into 7 islands and 7 oceans, appointing his sons, their rulers, and finally retiring. He showed how devotees achieve great things because they are so surrendered to the all-powerful Lord. Priyavat's son was Agnidhar, whose son was Nabi, desired by the Lord as his son. So Nabi desired the Lord as his son. And the Lord appeared as Rishabdev, who instructed his 100 sons. So we'll see all this in the first 15 chapters. Bharat Maharaj was the eldest son, and his pastimes, where he falls from an elevated position, takes birth as a deer, and then a Brahman, are described in some detail. So very, very wonderful pastime. Hearing about the 7 islands, Dvipas, created by the chariot wheels of Priyavrat, Parikshit inquired about their dimensions and characteristics. Sukadev Goswami then describes the structure of Bhumandal, beginning with Jambudvip, its 9 tracts of land, Varshas, and its various mountainous ranges. Okay, so we can now start. Canto 5, Chapter 1. Oh, yes, just tracking the conversations, because there's loads of different conversations going on. Canto 1, we had Vyasadev Narad Muni, then we had the sages in Naimisharanya, headed by Shonak Rishi, talking to Sutta Goswami. Then we had conversations including, in the second canto, from Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, which led later in third canto to Vidur and Uddhava initially, and then Vidur and Maitreya. And that was a very long conversation that carried on all the way into the fourth canto. Now, back again, Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. In the last canto, number 4, Sukadev Goswami mentioned that although Maharaj Priyavrat received instructions from the great sage and renounced family life, but then he still engaged in ruling the earth. Parikshit asks how Priyavrat could give up his renounced position to engage in household life. How could you fall down from the position of renunciation? So Parikshit Maharaj was not quite understanding why Priyavrat, from a position of renunciation, went to a position of ruling. Sukadev answers that one who is attached to the nectarian honey of the Lord's lotus feet may sometimes be checked by an impediment, but he still never gives up the exalted position he has attained. Priyavat's father, Manu, tried to convince his son to rule the universe. Uttampa's descendants up to the Prachetas had ruled the kingdom of the earth, but now there was no king, for their son Daksha in the second birth took to performing austerities. Manu, seeing no alternative, wanted to bring Priyavrat back from the forest and make him the king. Thus Priyavrat and his descendants ruled until the 5th Manvantara. At the beginning of the 6th mantra, Daksha gave up his austerities to become the king. However, Priyavrat preferred to engage in discussing spiritual topics with Narad Muni, not liking to accept his father's proposal. Therefore, his grandfather, Lord Brahma, grandfather, descends with compassion and smiling on his swan plane from the highest planet to meet Priyavrat. So there you go. There's Lord Brahma. He comes. He wants to talk to Priyavrat because Priyavrat is enjoying with Narad Muni. But Manu has also come and asking him, hey, take up the kingdom. There's nobody else. Brahma instructs Priyavrat that no one can avoid the order of the Lord, Supreme Lord. Bound by Vedic injunctions, everyone must carry out the duties of Varnashram Dharma. It is the Lord only who gives us our specific bodies and the happiness and distress we achieve. Therefore, we must follow his instructions. The liberated soul, seeing the enjoyment and suffering of his karma like a dream, remains steadfast in his devotional service. A self-controlled person can go anywhere without any danger of fall down. Brahma, so that's Brahma's instruction. Look, don't worry. You will not get entangled in Maya because you're already self-realized. Brahma therefore instructed Priyavrat to accept material life without fear by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Priyavrat is very obedient. He didn't obey his father, but Lord Brahma's instructions were very clear. He accepts Lord Brahma's order without any resentment and fully engages in worldly affairs after being established as the ruler of the entire world by Swambhu Manu, while at the same time always remembering the lotus feet of the Lord. He had 10 sons with Barismati and 3 sons with another wife, Uttam, Tamasha and Revata. Maybe 3 wives, who later became Manus, who also ruled the universe. And they had 1 daughter. So this is like the family tree. Priyavrat with his wife Parismati had a daughter. She was the daughter of Vishwakarma. 10 sons who had themselves another 10 sons in total. Had 1 daughter who was married to Sukracharya. And then the second wife, there was 3 sons, Uttama, Tamash, and Vairapata, who were Manus. Very powerful children. King Priyavrat ruled for a very long time. Wow. 1.1 billion years. That's even unimaginable. Once he became dissatisfied with the movement of the sun. So at one time, he was not happy with the sun god, as he had lit up only half the surface of the earth, whilst the remainder remained dark. Priyavrat followed the orbit of the sun god on a brilliant chariot. So Priyavrat followed on his own chariot. By the power of yoga, Priyavrat had 2 bodies, one as a king and one as a sun. Priyavrat followed the sun not to compete with the sun, but to give happiness to the inhabitants of earth. Because of this arrangement, in months like Jyesht, hot months, the sun made by Priyavrat was cooler than the moon. And in cool months like Margashirsha, cold months, the sun by Priyavrat was warmer than the other sun at dawn and dusk. So there was 2 suns. He was so powerful. The rims of his chariot created ruts that later became 7 oceans, dividing the planetary system known as Bhumandal into 7 islands. Priyavrat performed amazing acts by taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Who can even imagine this? But he considered himself fallen, as he had somehow become again entangled in material activities. He divided all his earthly possessions amongst his obedient sons. He gave up everything and was able to return to the path of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who chants Hare Krishna can immediately be freed from material bondage. At the end, by the grace of the Lord, Priyavrat's heart, having been cleansed, became a pastime, place for the Supreme Lord. His heart was so clean. It's a phenomenal chapter. Chapter 2. The activities of Maharaj Angidra. After his father, Maharaj Priyavrat departed to follow the path of spiritual life by undergoing austerities, King Agnidhar ruled the world. In the valley of Mandara hill, King Agnidhar once worshipped Lord Brahma by performing severe austerities in order to get a wife. Lord Brahma selected Purvachiti, the best among the dancing girls in his assembly, and sent her to the king. She subdued Agnidhar by her beauty. Agnidhar praised Purvachiti's beauty and completely surrenders to her. Attracted by Agnidhar's qualities, Purvachiti enjoyed with him for thousands of years. They had 9 sons. So, King Nabi's, the future King Nabi said, Kim Purush, Harivash, Ilavarta, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Kuru, Bhadraswa, Ketumala. And after they grew up, she left him and returned to Brahma. The son of Agnidhar then ruled kingdoms in different parts of Jambudvip. Of course, Agnidhar, however, his senses unsatisfied, was always thinking of his celestial wife. And therefore, in the next life, he was born in her celestial planet, Prithulak. Agnidhar desired to go to Prithulak, although he is a son of a Vaishnava, Priyavrat. This is because he was born when Priyavrat was infatuated by lusty desires. So that wasn't very intelligent, because Agnidhar wanted to satisfy his desires, to be with Purvachiti. But you're still in this material world. Instead, the idea is of Bhakti Yoga is to focus on getting your desires attached to the Supreme Lord and getting out of this world. Chapter 3. Rishabdev's appearance in the room of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi. Maharaj Nabi was the first son of Agnidhar. Nabi was married to Meru Devi, but they had no children. Therefore, they both worshipped Lord Vishnu by performing a sacrifice. In the performance of a sacrifice, there are 7 transcendental means to obtain the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So this is interesting. 7 different things to get the Ya of the Lord. By sacrificing valuable things or eatables, by acting in terms of place, by acting in terms of time. So behaving very nicely when one is in a transcendental place. And again, in terms of time, acting appropriately, offering hymns, prayers, going through the priest, having a proper qualified priest, by offering gifts to the priest, dakshina, by observing the regulatory principles. However, one cannot obtain the Supreme Lord through this paraphernalia. So you can get the mercy of the Lord, but you can't actually get the Lord himself. Nevertheless, the Supreme Lord, due to his affection for his devotees, appeared before King Nabi in his 4-armed form. He was beautifully decorated with helmet, earrings, bangles, belts, pearl necklaces, armlets, ankle bells, and jewels. The priests offered prayers, realizing that the Lord does not need their worship, but kindly accepts the worship for his devotees' benefit. They prayed that they may not be able to remember his name. Oh, can you just give me the ice? JD? Ice, Lewis. They prayed that they may not be able to remember his name, form, qualities due to stumbling, hunger, falling down, yawning, or being in a miserable disease condition at the time of death. So at the time of death, who knows what our situation is going to be, especially if there's high fever. They prayed for constant remembrance of the holy names, attributes, and activities. The priests introduced Maharaj Nabi, who is desirous of having a son like the Lord. Even though the Lord could offer Nabi any exalted position, including elevation to the heavenly planets or liberation back to Godhead. The priests apologized for asking the Lord to come before them to fulfill King Nabi's desire. In one sense, it was a material desire, but actually not, because he wanted the Lord as his son. The reason they were feeling sorry was it was very rare to have achieved the Lord's personal presence, even for elevated sages. The Lord assured the priests that he was very pleased with their truthful prayers. Because Nabi prayed a son like him, this is very difficult to achieve, as there is no one like him. Therefore, the Lord declared, he will himself expand and appear as the son of King Nabi and his wife, Merudevi. Apart from fulfilling Nabi's desires, the Lord wanted to descend to personally exhibit the method of executing religious principles. So, this is another transcendental appearance. So, let's stop there. Any questions? Any comments? Quite a lot we've gone through today.
Yes, Prabhuji, lots of names and things to remember. And I
Yeah.
think more we read about it or listen from you, then only we can get a bit of a grasp. But at the first time, it's difficult to remember everything, all
Yeah.
these names and what they do. But I don't think that matters very much, does it?
No, 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 no. I think the most important thing is the principles. Yes, you're right. The names, it doesn't matter. It's more what we can learn from these personalities, which is more important. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Absolutely right. Otherwise, we can get stuck into the names and and really lose the point. Become scholars, knowing this, knowing that. But actually, if we understand purpose of the Bhagavatam is to elevate us to the level of bhakti yoga. And the most important thing of bhakti yoga is let me always hear Krishna Katha in the association of devotees. And that is a very important thing that is a thread right throughout the Bhagavatam. And we see many devotees doing that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Nariman. Okay. Prabhupada, anything from your side? Oh, no. Oh, she's there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you for joining.
Because I missed 2 days, and
Yeah, that's okay.
I will. I think I will go in the YouTube
Yeah,
and read them. Then I'll be better off.
sure, sure, sure.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.